What's up, everyone? Hope that you all are having a wonderful day. Quick reminder before I get started, if you are not already in our macro tracking and weightlifting for women Facebook group, definitely join us over there. It's a fantastic group. We're always posting new content, making sure that we're giving you guys just the best, education and information possible. And then also pop a follow over on Instagram at Queens of Iron. Again, just tons of resources and support there for you all as well. All right, amazing. So today I'm breathless because I was just running up and down the stairs because I have props today. I want to dive into something today that is going to make a huge difference in your results. And honestly, nailing this is going to improve, honestly, all of your lifts. Like there's so many lifts that can be improved just by perfecting this one thing. And it's also going to help you get gorgeous glutes. Everyone wants to grow the glutes. So this will definitely help with that. And just make sure that you're getting the results that you're working so hard for, right? All right, so be honest. Who here has ever felt like your back is doing all the work in your deadlifts or your RDLs or anything like that? Or maybe you've struggled to feel your glutes and your hamstrings, even though you're pushing through the motions, right? You're doing the motions, doing the work. How many of you have ever felt like drop a me if you've ever felt that in any of your lifts? I've been there too. And I promise you, once you perfect this, you will not. The big thing is, if you're not seeing the changes in your body or the muscle growth that you have been working for, the problem's probably not your effort, right? I can guarantee that all of you are working super hard. The problem can actually be that your form is just off. And sometimes it's like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So if you don't know that you're doing it incorrectly, you're just going to keep on doing that, right? And working hard and being like, what the heck? Why am I not getting the results that I want? So, and it happens a lot, right? When your form is not dialed in, right, you're not targeting the right muscles that you're trying to target. So that means that you're not getting the results that you're grinding hard for, right? So I'm going to talk about how you can fix that. I'm looking at my notes here, just skipping through some of this. So what I want to talk today about is the hip hinge. This is probably up in the top 5, maybe even number 1, thing that I see done incorrectly, and takes a lot of practice to get right. The nailing your hip hinge is going to help improve your deadlift form. It's going to help improve your RDLs. Honestly, even things like bent over rows or any kind of bent over movement where we want to be thinking about hinging from the hips rather than just bending over. It's going to improve not just your form, but more importantly, the look that you're going for, right? If you're able to get your form down, that means that we're working that muscle more efficiently, okay? When we're working it more efficiently, we're going to have better gains, right? Your glutes are going to look better. It's going to shape your hamstrings in the way that you want it to be shaped. Whereas if you're not working it correctly, you're working hard, right? And you might see some changes, but you're not going to see as many or as much change as you want to see in your glutes and your hamstrings, right? And it's also going to help prevent, if you're getting your form right, help prevent that low back strain. I hear from a lot of people, they're like, man, I'm feeling this in my low back. This doesn't feel good on my back. And it's like, okay, let's fix that. It's probably your form, right? It's probably your hip hinge, okay? So I'm going to go through how to perfect that today. I'm going to lower my desk here. Like I said, I have some props and I'll show you how to get that right. Kristen also has a great video on this, just going over the broomstick drill that I'm going to show you as well. But it's nice to come on live and kind of reiterate this. So amazing. So before we dive into that, one of the other props that I have today is I want to talk about kind of taking it back to the basics, but talk about footwear. This is so important. And honestly, my clients have probably been called out on it. It's something that I see a lot is women go into low body day and they're wearing the super cushiony walking shoes, right? Or running shoes. They're fantastic for running and walking for those purposes. But when you're lifting, and especially as you get strong and you're lifting heavier and heavier loads, I can't stress enough how important it is to get you set up from the foundation, right? Our feet are the foundation of support. And so having proper footwear is so important. So I just wanted to show you guys. I actually have 3 different pair, but I only have 2 right now to show you, but I can show you some different options. So one thing I want you to think about anytime that you're doing any kind of low body lift, you're squatting, you're deadlifting, your RDLs, any of that, we want to make sure that we don't have a shoe, first of all, that has a narrow toe box. We really want to be able to spread our toes out. If any of you have practiced yoga before, this is super important in yoga. And even Pilates, I know they do that as well. But really being able to spread your toes out and almost like claw your toes down a little bit is going to help you with stability. So think about your foot as a tripod, right? So each foot, so you've got your big toe, your little toe, and then your heel. That's making that tripod of support, right? If we're wearing shoes that are super cushiony, it's like that bounce house effect. My desk is bouncing all around too. It's on a stand, but you get that bounce house effect. And it's like your body is going to be working so hard to stabilize your ankle joints and your knee joints that then you're losing out on the glute gains, which is what you're really trying to work, right? So we want to have a nice wide toe box, and we want to have a really flat, hard shoe. So honestly, if your gym allows it, most gyms do. I've never had a problem with this. I just take my shoes off and work out in my socks. I'm not walking around in the gym with my socks on. I'll stay in my spot. But that honestly is like probably the best is just take your shoes off and do your low body work in socks. That way you can really feel that biofeedback from the ground up. You can really spread out your toes and make sure that all 3 corners of that tripod are really firmly planted in the ground. And then as you're driving up, you're pushing up through the mid of your foot, right? Making sure that all of those points are connected. And this does tie into the hip hinge. So I'll talk about that in a moment too. I'm like, this is so important, so critical because I see it done wrong all the time. And it's like, all you need to fix is your shoes. So just to kind of show you, like this is my old beat up walking shoe, right? You can see that it's curved. And so what I often see is if you're working out in this kind of shoe, your foot's going to lift up, your toes, right, are going to lift up off the ground because you have this natural curved. It's also really cushiony. So you're going to be kind of like wobbly when you're doing any leg work, especially single leg work. Whereas a shoe like this is more of a like cross training style shoe, really flat. You see, it doesn't really have that curve. The inside is pretty firm. It's not super cushiony. So this is also a great option if you don't want to just work out in your socks. Okay. All right. Amazing. So now we've talked about the foundation of your lift, your feet, your footwear. Now we want to talk about how to actually nail that hip hinge. Okay. The other piece here is our posture, right? So I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see. Sometimes what I see with these movements is we have a tendency when we are going down to automatically like round our shoulders, right? Especially if you are lifting something heavy, right? You naturally almost do this. We want to fight back against that. And so it's so important here to remember we're really locking those shoulder blades down, right? We're pulling those shoulders down and back, locking them into your back pockets, right? Keeping our chest nice and lifted. This is really critical to the hip hinge because we don't want to be bending over. Imagine that I had something written across my chest, right? From the other side of the gym, somebody else should be able to still read what's written across my chest because my chest is nice and lifted and upright. Whereas if I'm bending over, that's all going to be covered, right? You're not going to be able to see any of that. So we want to keep that beautiful posture throughout this movement. It'll also help you when you are lifting heavier, keep your strength there as well. Okay. So yeah, I'm just checking my notes here, make sure there was nothing else I wanted to go over. I've got my broomstick here. I'm going to lower my desk. So I'll show you a couple of things here. Hopefully you guys will be able to see this. There we go. A desk that raises and lowers and a walking pad. Best $300 I've ever spent. Highly recommend. But this is, I'll just go over the broomstick drill with you real quick for the hip hinge. This is fantastic if you are just learning how to do this. But honestly, I think everybody, if you are trying to perfect your lifts, going back to the basics is, you're never too old to, know too much to go back and just double check and make sure that you're doing this correctly. So with the broomstick drill, what we're going to be doing, I'll just walk through that first. You want to take this and make sure that it's connected at your butt, right? We're connected down here. Get that a little more comfortable. And then the top of it is connected to my head, right? So that's making sure my head is lifted. So imagine I've got a crown on my head, because we're all queens, right? I've got a crown on my head that I want to keep upright. So I'm going to keep my head up, shoulders back and down, chest lifted. And then I'm thinking about starting the hip hinge from my hips, right? It's not a movement where I'm bent over. If I bend over, watch how the broomstick goes away from my head, right? I'm just bending over here at the waist. It's no longer connected. That's not what I want to see. And that's often what I do see in women's form. So that broomstick is going to stay connected to my spine, down to the bottom of my spine here, right? My tailbone. I'm hinging at the hips. So I'm really pushing my hips backwards as far as I can, trying to make sure that this broomstick stays connected until I feel a big, big stretch through my hamstrings, through my glutes, right? And this broom, you can see, is connected all the way. Of course, my back has a natural little curvature there. That's fine. But it's connected from my back to my tailbone to the top of my head, so that I can make sure that I'm really pushing my hips backwards as far as they'll go to get that nice big stretch. You almost can be, and this is where I was talking about the footwear and your shoes and how important those are, because when you're doing that right, you're displacing your body weight, right? You're pushing your body weight backwards, and you can almost like fight gravity. Your toes may want to come up a little bit. And that's where you want to make sure we're keeping all 3 points of that tripod that I talked about on the ground, firmly planted. Dig those toes in so that you can hinge those hips backwards, get a big, big stretch, okay? We're going to be using this movement in, of course, an RDL, right? Where we're hinging backwards to get the dumbbells there and then driving up. That's also part of a deadlift. Like I said, if you're doing any kind of rowing movement, right? We're not just going to bend over, because that's going to load pressure in our low back. We want to be loading the glutes and the hamstrings, right? And so when you're pushing your hips backwards, really driving them back, that's going to make sure that my weight, my body weight, is loaded in my glutes and my hamstrings to support my body. So even if I'm doing a rowing movement, I'm nice and supported there in my glutes and my hamstrings, rather than just bent over. And then I'm having to, of course, your core should always be tight, right? Every workout is a core exercise. But it puts less pressure on my core and my back than, if I'm properly hinging my hips, okay? Another big mistake that I often see is bending the knees too much. So you want to keep, and I'm hoping you guys can see this, you do want to keep a soft bend in your knee, right? So as you're hinging backwards, you're naturally going to have just a soft bend in the knee. We don't want to be locked out, right? But we also don't want to be squatting. So watch for that as well. And then, like I said, the other big thing that I often see is you're just bending forward. The shoulders are coming down. The weight is too far away from the body. We want to always keep that close in. Anytime that we're doing any kind of hinging movement, keep that weight close into your body, okay? And then, like I said, you should feel that deep stretch through your hamstrings and through your glutes to know that you're loading the weight correctly there, okay? All right, amazing. Hopefully that was super helpful. Like I said, there's Kristen has done another video just walking through that hip hinge or that broomstick drill. I definitely recommend that you practice with that. Another way that I've heard people talk about the hip hinge, or two other ways I'll give you, because sometimes I think everybody learns differently, right? And so hearing it in a different way, sometimes people will be, oh, that makes sense. So two other ways that you might think about it. One is, imagine that there's a a loop or a band around your hips, right? That band is pulling your hips backwards. Of course, I backed up so you can't see, but if there was a band pulled here and it's pulling my hips backwards, right? My chest is coming down second, the band's pulling my hips backwards. The other way that you can think of it is imagine that you've got your hands full of groceries. You're trying to close the car door. You're going to pop your butt back, right? You're not just going to like bend over. You're going to pop your butt back to be able to close that door. So those are just two other little ways to kind of think about that hip hinge and how to get the most out of that. Okay. All right. Amazing. So, these little like form mistakes, little things, like I said, that you don't even realize you're doing. And sometimes even if you're recording yourself and you're looking at it, you might not, like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so unless there's someone to kind of point those things out to you, right, you might just keep doing the same movements, wondering, well, why the heck am I not growing my glutes? Why am I not feeling this in my glutes? Why is my low back hurting? I'm doing the hip hinge. I'm doing an RDL, right? So mastering these little things and honestly, having somebody in your corner can make a massive difference, right? In creating these little tweaks where we can say, okay, Michelle, like, let's just change out your footwear. That's going to make a big difference too. Or let's change up how you're doing this, making those little form tweaks that might be holding you back from getting the results that you're looking for is massive, right? So having that personalized guidance can accelerate your results, right? So that you're getting the most out of each and every single lift. You're maximizing your time. I know, like all of you, time is precious, right? You're all super busy. And so we want to make sure that the time that we do have in the gym is we're making the most of it, right? It's super efficient. And so if you have 45 minutes to an hour to dedicate 4 or 5 times a week, we want to get the most out of that, right? The most out of each lift. So having a coach in your corner means that you are going to be able to start shaping your body exactly how you want in way less time, right? In way less time than it would take you if you're just kind of guessing, trying to, figure out, am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Right. It takes all the guesswork out of it. So we can instantly say, this is what we need to tweak, and we can keep working on it back and forth, right? That's what we do with our clients. They're sending us form videos, and we can go back and forth every single week to make sure that they're getting the most out of every single workout, right? So if you're ready to get rid of that guesswork, right, make sure that your form is on point so you can see the results that you deserve. I would love for you to comment results below, and we'll reach out to you, right? Talk about how Queens of Iron can help you get there faster with all the support in the world that you need to reach your goals in a shorter amount of time. All right, amazing. I hope that was helpful. If anyone has questions, I would love to chat with you. But yeah, I hope that you all have a beautiful day.